This episode of Around the Layout is brought to you by Spring Creek Model Trains. Family owned for nearly 25 years, Spring Creek is your destination for model trains. Check out springcreekmodeltrains.com for a wide variety of offerings from today's top manufacturers and exclusive products found nowhere else. Whether in Deschler, Nebraska, or at a train show near you, stop in and say wow. To see where they'll be next, visit their website at springcreekmodeltrains.com. Hey, do you like free stuff? As a member of the operating crew, you'll get a chance to win awesome prizes each month. For less than a dime a day, you'll be entered to win, and just as important, your support helps keep every episode from behind a paywall and free of those unrelated and annoying commercials you hear on other podcasts. Sign up today at aroundthelayout.com/crew, and thank you for your support. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Around the Layout, where model railroaders come to tell their story. My name is Ray Arnott, so glad you could join us. It's time once again to find out what's happening in model railroading, and nobody better to do that than the editor of Model Railroad News, Tony Cook.
Hey, Ray, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. It's good to see you once again. The leaves are turning color. There's pumpkin spice everywhere. Coffee and everything else. Apple cider donuts have been pretty good.
I mean, I can accept that, but the pumpkin spice, I even saw some place was trying to serve like pulled pork barbecue sandwiches with pumpkin spice macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, it's just
no. But yes, the leaves are turning. In fact, I saw a shot from the east portal of, I think, a BNSF train rolling out of the Moffat the other day. And yes, the aspens were turning beautiful yellow gold.
Yeah, it is definitely that time of year, and you argue against it. I argue for it. It's model railroad season, and we've got shows coming up, and I think the releases just seem to, I don't know, they seem to get a little faster, but you would know more than I do. Does it seem like right around the holiday times we start to see more stuff?
Not this year. This year has been like holiday every month. That I've never seen so much product in the last year or so rolling in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been wild. Absolutely wild.
Wild and completely awesome because, boy, the gaps are just continuing to fill. If you've got some kind of niche thing that you model, just wait a little bit because it just seems like everything's starting to fill in. It's no longer generic. It's getting into really niche-y things, and it's really kind of cool to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You brought along a guest with you, and it's one we've been looking forward to talking to for some time, and joining us from InterMountain Railway Company, Christopher Palomarez. Chris.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Glad to have you here.
Well, you were talking about pumpkin spice. Actually, the first thing that came to my mind was tapioca.
Ooh.
Do they pumpkin spice that too? Wow.
That thing, it's like tapioca kind of is synonymous to me, at least for the holidays. It always shows up around Thanksgiving. It kind of starts popping its head, around Halloween, and, and it goes all the way through the snow season.
Wow.
One thing I look forward to is eggnog. Like eggnog's a seasonal thing. I'm an eggnog. I like eggnog.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, every so many years, I'll buy a little thing of it to remind myself, what does it taste like again? I'm like, oh yeah, no. Yeah.
Well, I cut mine a little bit with milk. I cut it a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, every egg needs a nog.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Yes, I'm excited to have Chris on today. Chris is, with InterMountain Railway, but I tell you what, Ray, Chris has got, such a resume of stuff. Everybody remembers him from being brand manager at Athearn. He goes back to microscale. But the thing I always like to think about with Chris and why he's cooler than the rest of us model railroaders, because, there is that problem that we do kind of have that, whatever it is, that young Sheldon, it's like you're a model railroader, you can't be cool or whatever. But this guy's got legit cool because he was involved with like a surfer publication way back in the day. So
that could make him cooler than us. That's for sure.
He is cooler than all of us.
I've never hung 10. I've never hung 1. I've never hung 5. None of them. So yeah.
Hey, I did hang with Kelly Slater, so it was kind of cool.
Wow, very cool. So Intermountain, the railway, Longmont, Colorado, been around since the mid 90s or so. I think what that was, 60-foot boxcar was one of the first HO releases that came out. But boy, what you guys have been doing lately. And I just saw them this week, Ray. I got samples on those new the cylindrical hoppers that have
the faded and patch stuff.
And that's what I wanted to ask you a little bit about, Chris, because I know you were instrumental in putting that together. In fact, when that first hit, I called you and said, "Hey, this has to be your project." And I'm really excited about it, and tell me more. And you'd sent me some pictures of them. But tell me how that came about, and how is it done? Number one, is it printed, or kind of let us know how this faded thing, what's the behind the scenes thing to make that look like that?
Well, everything is pad printed. And the interesting thing about pad printing is it doesn't really accommodate blends or gradients, a smooth gradient between two different colors. It has to be kind of a hard edge. So with that being said, it's one of those things where you kind of look around at the world around you. And also my background in the print industry with Deep Magazine, one of the, kind of as a side note, you got to understand this to kind of know where my headspace was at when I, worked with my artist to kind of develop the new faded and patched look for InterMountain. One of the things that we really like to do in the magazine was to use vectors in a way that would add detail to a page, but it would have kind of this organic look of tread plate, scratches, rust, spray paint, things like that. And it was all black and white. It was all hard edge. And the way that your eye kind of interpreted things was it kind of gave the blend. It's sort of like when you print a magazine, the halftones and things like that, the halftones would generate kind of like a smooth gradient, even though they're just a bunch of little dots. We chose to approach weathering sort of similar, but instead of just a bunch of round dots, we gave it texture. We actually gave it a shape, and that just added to the detail of the project. So what we're doing is rendering shading with pad printing. So top of the body, like on a cylindrical hopper, would be lighter than the side, and then it'd be even darker on the curved side that falls underneath the side. So it was kind of forced light and shadow. By doing that, you kind of get more of a three-dimensional look. Even though the object that you're printing on is three-dimensional, it kind of accentuates it. In a scene with like model lighting where it may not be the most hard light, it kind of fills in for you that shadow and the shading on the lighter areas on top and things like that. So we wanted to take weathering into a different direction that could be mass produced.
And it's fantastic looking. And I assume too, we talked about the cylindricals, but I had earlier this summer, I think from Spring Creek, and then I had things from you from InterMountain. You had some 3-bay covered hoppers, wasn't there? The one that stands out to me is that neat Chicago Northwestern, where like the ball and bar Herald is like faded out or rusted out. I mean, these cars literally look like if I touch them with my hand, something's going to come off on my fingers.
well, it's funny you mentioned that, Tony, because when that car is what started the whole thing. My artist and I, we kind of put our heads together and we looked at a bunch of photographs, and we noticed that the sun-baked paint pretty much oxidized and it turned lighter. The decal that covered the body paint that finally wore off became darker because, it was less exposure to the sun. And then just the logo itself kind of started breaking up and peeling and doing some interesting things that was very characteristic. We wanted to have the look bring a character to the car. It had a story. It had time on the rails, and you could kind of see the war-beaten paint that, it developed by just serving customers. And we wanted that story to kind of come through the printing.
And boy, it absolutely does. I mean, these cars, we've all seen that, sitting at in a spur someplace in a yard, some grain hoppers in various stages of rusting away. And as I say, they're amazing looking. These are literally, I think I did a show with the guys from Spring Creek last week, and I was talking about some of these, and I said, boy, these are things that I could have snuck into an RPM and probably had everybody going, wow, how'd you do that? And as I said to Mike and Jeff Zucker, I said, oh, I just bought it and took it out of the box.
I got to give credit where credit's due. I think what Microtrains is doing is pretty much the holy grail of where weathering will go, where it's like photorealistic type looking stuff. But it from what I understand about their printing process, it's just not mass producible yet. I think it will be in the next few years. And I'm really hoping that, my involvement with the art department and the art team that I'm working with now, that we could be kind of tip of the spear with taking pad printing to the next level and then usher in whatever comes after that. I think it's going to be really signature to how people model nowadays. I think we're just kind of all seeing an erosion of spare time, but we all love the effects of something that looks super realistic coming out of a box. What it takes now to get there maybe is just some pan pastels. Mm-hmm. Kind of doing some little lighter and darker areas just to kind of finish up the accentuation on the model. I think people have time for that in front of the TV. But as far as like generating their own faded looking decals and, doing a whole repaint and, really doing what we were doing in the weathering forum back in the early 2000s. I'm not sure if that is of interest right now, just because of, just lack of spare time. I'm just kind of seeing across America.
I think it's skill. I mean, I see that stuff. I don't feel like I've messed with some of, as you mentioned, the pan pastels and some of those things. And that is the great thing about like the cars that you're doing at InterMountain. Even I can come up with something that I'm happy with because I just need to dust up the trucks and maybe add a little bit to the top of the car to give it. There's not a lot you have to do, and it's a real winner. Right. It does look great.
It's perhaps skill and time. The other part too, time is a commodity. And for those that don't have the time to do a whole lot of weathering or are not at the point, here's an opportunity for them to bring a car to their layout that doesn't look like they're all brandy new and shiny. Right. They have something that's, started, and then they can work on completing it, but we'll also focus their time on actually completing and operating their layout too. So there's definitely a win there.
Yeah. And I really hope that, it's something that people find value in. Definitely. I'm hoping that people find some interest in it. What I have a great satisfaction of, I mean, I just love doing vector artwork too. I did it for Microscale for years too, not only the magazine, but just kind of seeing what's out there and kind of thinking, well, how could we do that as a vector? It's kind of a fun challenge for me. And I'm really looking forward to upping the game on some of these faded and patch cars in the future. We've announced some new ones, including the 5283 boxcar. We're doing some Golden West where it isn't really a light blue. The blue kind of faded a little bit teal. And I think just, kind of being really sensitive to color and, how the different pigments faded. Some of them turn chalky, some actually turn green. In the case of the blue, it's just really wild what happens to color as it weathers over time.
Always being one that wonders if it was the chicken or the egg first. When you start to develop a project like this, do you take a run of cars that you already have and then go look for types of weathering on that car? Or do you find like a list of these cars that have this super cool look to them and then develop the car? Which one comes first?
It's both. In terms of our Pullman Standard 4785s, when I was looking around, it was so neat because what happened to the Pullman Standards is 3 or more railroads would be represented. It'd start off at New York Central, then you'd see Conrail, then you'd see like Norfolk Southern, you know.
Right.
And also Penn Central was on there too. Between New York Central and Conrail, there was Penn Central, and all 4 railroads are represented in some form on the weathering, just how by nature of how that car faded. That one was just cool, and I was like, well, we got to do that one. Then another one popped up where it was equally as many railroads on there, but the fading was more extreme. It was like the gray started weathering from the bottom up from the Conrail days, and you could see the Penn Central green kind of revealing itself in sheets underneath it.
I call that fighting back. I think it's it's the old railroad fighting back to come back through again, right?
Yeah, you know, the Milwaukee Road had some MP15 ACs that did exactly that through the Sioux Line patches. And it's like they went to Canadian Pacific, and pretty much the black that they just rolled on with a roller or whatever just started rubbing right off. You know, it oxidized and came right off and revealed the old EMD paint that it protected for the past 30 years or so, you know.
Well, I know those are certainly a lot of fun to find when you're out trackside and you start to see that former road name bleeding through, or you can even see it on some signs around. I go up Swanton, Vermont, and I took a picture, and the NECR sticker that went over the CV, and then you can see the CV fighting back underneath that NECR. Like, yeah, I'm not forgotten about yet. I'm fighting back. I'm going to.
Yeah. Milwaukee Road and the CVR live. You know?
That's right. That's right.
Have you guys announced any locomotives yet? You talk about the freight cars, and I know the locomotives would be, in fact, the stuff you're doing, I already think of your Paducah rebuild, because boy, the IC and ICG always look so rough and faded and bad looking that, man, I could give you a whole slide box full of bad pictures of Jeep 10s or Jeep 8s. That would be fun models. Are there any locomotive projects that you're looking at?
Yes, actually, you know, in the future, I'm looking at doing some Chicago Central, Jeep 10s. Also, Jeep 16s are kind of within the realm too. We just want to get through this next group of Jeep 10s, get them delivered, and then look at 16s and the next group of 10s after that, kind of holistically, and see what really cool faded and patched job that we could do to some of these things.
And now the next run on both of those, and that 16, by the way, was just a fantastic looking model, Ray. I don't know if you got to see that review that I did in Model Railroad News of that Seaboard system one, but boy, that was well worth the wait on it. Is that next run of the Jeep 10? That's HO, right? That's one of my questions I had, you know, when I've got a guest coming up, I always toss out to a couple of friends here and there, what would you like me to ask? And that was ask InterMountain if they wouldn't reconsider N-scale for the Paducah rebuilds again. I said, I think they already did that, and that got canceled. But what's any movement on that by chance?
Actually, the short answer is yes. And it's all going to be a surprise from that forward.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah. No, we haven't given up on N-scale.
Well, I'm sure a whole bunch of N-scale folks will be certainly happy to see InterMountain continue to roll out N-scale.
We actually started a new tooling project for N-scale. I think it's been too long since it's been announced. We went to tooling, and I'm at the 3rd review of the test shots right now. I'm hoping that I can approve them on this next sample that I get, but it's the Trinity 3281 two-bay covered hopper.
Oh, neat, yeah.
Yeah. So we're well along our way on tooling that. Already have color samples in hand to approve. So I think probably by Q1 we'll have our first new N-scale freight car project coming on shore here. So more on that here soon. I'm hoping to have something in hand over at Train Fest and maybe something decorated by time of Springfield.
Awesome. Awesome. That's good to hear. That should be a neat little car, that little 3281. That's a nice popular prototype.
Yeah, and it just lands perfectly within the N scale bracket of enthusiasts because, as N scale modelers, I understand that, unit trains and long trains are, really of interest to N scale modelers. So it's kind of perfect for them,
Yeah.
So yeah, to do a 200 car train of that would look really outstanding,
Really awesome. One of the things I wanted to ask, because I feel like you are a pioneer in the social media end of the hobby. And as you well know, it totally exploded with the COVID stuff of 2020, that we had a lot more live streams and Facebook things, and it's so commonplace now. But when I think back as all that kind of came around and got started, I think of the stuff that you did, both at Athern and the things you did, helping with the startup on the What's Neat show that Kim Patterson does, that, you were really there for a lot of that early stuff and helping put the wheels on that and getting it moving. How do you see it today? It surprises me how much is out there now as far as YouTube and Facebook. And I think it's really awesome because it gives us all more communication, which has always been something that I think has been challenging for model railroaders. But what's your take on and how this is all coming together and exploding?
Well, I think that we're finally starting to join up with our fellow modelers overseas, across border lines and things like that, and really interchange ideas that might have been completely overlooked or even unheard of back, 20 or more years ago. As a junior modeler, when I started Fremo with a kind of my mentor over in San Luis Obispo, we just kind of looked at a photograph that was in Model Railroader of what was going on in Germany as far as modular railroading. And it was just so different and kind of scenery forward, and it just captured our imaginations. We got super excited about, like, well, why can't we do that here in the United States? Have modules with single track and kind of more scenery-esque. And it just, nowadays, when you start thinking about how things have progressed 30 years later or so, it's like modelers are starting to use Noh and some of these other scenic materials that were, exclusive to Europe, like static grass. I don't remember that really coming around until like early 2000s. It just wasn't available. But once Scenic Express and some, Woodland Scenics and some of the other companies started offering it here, it just exploded. I think that as we interchange ideas through some of these groups and Facebook and, all the forums, of course, podcasts, that it's just a really exciting time to be part of the hobby, because we're getting the benefit of all this new knowledge, all these new techniques and experience and stuff, and we're making new friends too. The people I've met from all over the world, doing the business, being a part of Fremo, being in the community at large, it's just been astounding. I am so grateful that there's so many good people out there that, love trains and love to, interact with other like-minded people like that,
I think that is one of the neatest things, is that the frequency and that ability to interact, because going way back when I was a little kid, it just seemed like it was myself and it was my dad's hobby too. And when we'd be at a hobby shop, or if you're out rail fanning, occasionally we'd go out rail fanning with some other people that he knew. But in general, it always seemed like, you were like the only person really into this, because you didn't have that. And now, I mean, it's all day long. You get messages on Facebook, texts, emails, see videos from people of new things they're working on, that it's just amazing. The whole community seems so connected now.
Yes. Yeah, and it's exciting. Watching guys start new layouts and things like that, and just getting ideas for how they're approaching bench work, and kind of setting things up for scenery. They kind of design the scenery in their mind's eye while they're designing the layout too, and kind of getting into their thought process. It's just a great time to be a part of the hobby.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a global market, and it's a global community. It really is. And as more people become connected, like you said, sharing the ideas, then the market opens up. You're hearing stuff that was available, like you said, only over in Europe, now available to you. And if all this stuff that's being interchanged, the ideas that are being shared, we are in the golden era of model railroading for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as soon as the tree became like someone took a shrink ray to it and made it little, I mean, just the fidelity of things is just so much higher than what it was 30 years ago, just by the nature of sharing ideas in I'd say an electronic format. It just travels quicker, just what we've learned and relearned and developed over time. It's just so much further in the past 30 years than I think it was any other time prior.
Absolutely. So other than you've got these great work projects that you do with InterMountain, but what is on your personal workbench? What scales are you working in, or are you? I mean, I know I get that way where somebody says, what do you, it's like, I'm not doing anything right now because I've got a pile of models I've got to review. So, but what personally, either rail fanning or model railroading wise, has got you interested right now?
Well, I hate to say it, I've been more of an armchair modeler as of late. I did come up with a new module design for a potential Fremo module. I haven't cut any wood. It's just sort of lived in vector graphics, and I've been it's been in the back of my mind for months and months and months. Well, actually a year now. And I would love to, have the space in a garage to do it. Right now I'm an apartment dweller. So cutting wood and getting things actually tangible takes a little bit more effort, and it takes kind of a help from a friend who has the means and the way to make something like that happen. As far as actual modeling, I've had a couple locomotive projects kind of in the back burner. I was chewing on some GP38-2s, and I would love to do kind of a few dioramas based on the Northwestern Pacific Railroad, come around in like an alternate universe for present day. The whole theme is kind of like the Redwood Empire Strikes Back type thing, where they reopen up all the way up to Eureka and reestablish a deepwater port, and pulling frac sand trains out of there and stuff like that. I would love to do something around that, and everything would be like prototypical equipment. It existed in real life at some point, but just the manner of operation would be freelance. So it's kind of proto-lance at that point.
That'd be very cool. Yeah. Wow. Neat stuff. So tell us what shows you mentioned Train Fest, that you might have the N-Scale thing. What shows are coming up for InterMountain?
Train Fest, and then also Springfield. And then after that, definitely the Rocky Mountain Train Show.
That's a layup for you. I mean, there'd be something wrong if you didn't show up to that. Holy moly!
Yeah, no, it's in our own backyard, and we enjoy kind of bringing in some other people too that may not necessarily be able to make some of the out of state shows. So we'll get some of our tooling folks that out from behind one of the injection molding machines and over to the Rocky Mountain Train Show. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. You learn a lot at the foot of the customer. It doesn't matter what level you are in a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, one of the cool things that I really appreciate about InterMountain is there's a pretty big side of the tooling business that's done in Longmont, Colorado. Okay. I can go talk to the toolmaker in English, and he's right in front of me. Yeah. So, the GP10 is actually being injected right now out of Longmont. They just finished, I think, the clear glazing, so they're working on some of the horse filters and stuff like that right now, shooting out those parts. So after that, we got like the walkways and the long hoods, and then we're kind of organizing everything and packaging it up for assembly. So
wow, very cool.
Neat stuff. And InterMountain puts out every month. I get that in my inbox if I haven't caught it someplace else before. But you go to InterMountain's website, and Chris, remind me that what's the one, the email that comes out each month that's got the links to all the new stuff, like the member club or whatever it is.
The Modelers Club.
There you go. Yeah. How does somebody go? Because I signed up so long ago, I don't know if I could tell somebody how to go do that now. So where do you find it, and how do you do that?
Okay, there's a sign up right from our homepage, but there's another way to do it too. From our new Facebook page, we put out a link to the Constant Contact email, and you can just click on that and pull up the actual email that goes out, and you should be able to sign up through the Constant Contact form too. Awesome stuff. And that's always, you get to see the illustrations on the stuff that's coming out. And then there usually is the one area of things when they're shipping, because everybody always wants to know how close is that or when is that coming out. So always good information there on the website for InterMountain. Yes. Yeah. And there's a lot more neat stuff coming. I'd say right now we're delivering the round hood Evans coil cars and bi-level auto racks. This next upcoming month, look for the Maxi Force with the 6-pack containers. It's been a long time since those have been offered on the market, so we're reintroducing that, and then leveling up with having them fully loaded too with the 6-pack 53-foot containers. So that's coming.
And am I reading right? Gunderson 50-foot high cube boxcars. They say shipping now.
They're shipping now.
It wouldn't be me if I didn't ask about 50-foot high cubes.
Well, we're looking at doing another run of those. We found another crop of paint schemes that are pretty good dead ringers for the car that we have. And also we're looking at doing another faded and patched version on the Gunderson boxcar too.
See a lot of those on the road, so that'd be a very cool scheme for sure.
I mean, it's another paint scheme. If you're a modern modeler, it's just the fact of the matter for reproducing a prototype.
For sure.
Awesome. I got to show up at Chris's door sometime. I make a couple of pilgrimages to the Moffett Road every year or so. So yeah, I've got to swing by Longmont sometime and show up.
So InterMountain-Railway.com is where you will find all the goodness that InterMountain is putting out. We'll share all the links, including how you can sign up for their newsletter on our website, aroundthelayout.com/127. Chris, it has been so awesome catching up with you and what's happening at InterMountain Railway. And if you are out at Amherst, we'll look forward to seeing you there. That'll be one of our next appearances. So I look forward to meeting you in person, and we'll share some time together.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, Tony, it was really neat to catch up and get to know Chris Palomarez a little bit better, and neat background that he has and all that stuff he's learned from his past coming forward at InterMountain.
It is, he's a neat guy, and it's interesting as he talks about the vector graphics and the other things and how that goes back to the publishing and the stuff he did way back. You never know. It's like I always liken it to the radio broadcasting stuff in my background of like, well, you do magazines now, so that's not going to serve you at all. And then suddenly I'm on podcasts and live shows, and it's like, well, you'd be surprised that you never know what trick you're going to pick up and be carrying with you that, hey, that does come in handy. So no, he's
a transferable skill set.
He is a great guy, and a lot of neat stuff going on at InterMountain.
Oh yeah. Awesome stuff. And there's a bunch of stuff also going on in model railroading. So why don't you tell us what's happening?
We do have some new stuff happening, and we've got a little bit of everything this month, both scales and products and all that kind of stuff. We'll start up at the high end. I saw the Division Point and that's divisionpoint.com. And I know you put all the links, don't you, for the show things here so everybody can go to the stuff we talk about. But they're working on several HO scale brass import projects, and they shared early samples, I think, on their Facebook page in the last couple weeks of SD70 Aces. And they have also mentioned that they're looking for input and information on doing the EMD versions, the 70 T4s, which is a bit of an odd duck. You know, there's no plastic model of that at this point. So they're doing a number of contemporary things. They have a group of SD70s coming out that, in fact, I actually helped them with a prototype picture for their ad in Road Model Craftsman on that. So divisionpoint.com, and you can see all the projects they're working on, but a whole bunch of stuff happening in brass from them. Are you buying any brass these days?
I don't think that's in the budget, but it certainly is neat, and not taken away from anybody who would like to do that and collect it or run it. Or I know there's some other guys that, you know, we talked Robin Felder over in Switzerland. He is an exclusive brass guy, and he's doing Norfolk Southern, so he's always looking for brass stuff, and maybe this would be up his alley. So it's neat. Isn't that neat? Switzerland, and he's modeling an American railroad. It's
exclusively in brass.
Exclusively in brass.
Holy smokes. Wow.
Pretty cool.
A new brass I don't really ever buy much at all, but, you know, being the old vintage HO guy, I do end up getting a lot of those poor green or yellow covered from the inside foam is rotted and is eating its way into the that I think, you know, at least one side of it's good and I can see what this look like. So I'm intrigued. Yeah. But yes, I get all sorts of kind of odds and ends in brass. Bar mill scale model works. That's up your way, isn't it?
I think so.
Sort of, yeah.
I think so.
Well,
Great State of Maine. Yeah, they're New England. So yes.
Art Fahey, who's run that forever, is retiring. And Lynn Lednam is the new guy taking over at Bar Mills. They've got a couple of new O-scale kits out, and then there are 2 new HO. There's a hand car shed and a little maintenance shop kit in HO scale. You can find that at barmillsmodels.com. And they've got such a cool website because, you know, they got the little cartoon characters and things. It's a fun website to look at. There's how-to videos. There's even like audio downloads where they talk you through how to do certain things and putting kits together. But check them out if you've never built one of their cool kits. This would be a cool time to do it. This little hand car shed, I think, looks like a really fun and interesting kit. But again, Lynn Lednam is the new guy running Bar Mills right now.
They got a picture of a TV on the front of their website that you would remember. You know, good old click, 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 click.
Absolutely.
The channels. And then what was the top one was like UHF. The bottom was VHF or something like that. It was
other way. Yeah.
Other way. Okay.
VHF was the top, the low numbers.
Yep.
And then UHF would be the second. I was remote control for those in the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah. Get up and change the channel.
In fact, I was like a Magnavox and RCA compatible remote control. And I could even go get like a can of beer for, which I don't know that would actually be legal. I need to look into that to see if that was even something that, you know.
They got statute of limitations though, Tony.
Maybe on that, so, but yeah, it'd be switch from channel 4 to channel 5 and, you know, run into the kitchen and get this or that. But yes, I was quite the remote control. No batteries needed.
On a serious note, it is good to see companies like this because you get these small companies that are family owned or single owned, and everybody gets older and wants to move on, and you just kind of worry about it. But it's great to see when these companies are able to be sold to somebody else and they can carry it on. It's really good to see.
And Art is such a great guy, always enthusiastic. I think you probably have seen his setup at Amherst when you've been there before.
Absolutely.
But just fun stuff. So I'm sure Lynn will carry on that as well, that Bar Mills has always been a great, fun company.
Yeah.
How about a train set as we are getting close to, well, yeah, we're getting fairly close to Christmas. It would be time to be thinking about buying Christmas presents, I assume.
Yeah.
I saw Menards announce their O-gauge Tulsa tank train set. 2 Black Bonnet Santa Fe F units, that's Menards' own F unit, with 3 of their tank cars, a loop of Menards' own 3-rail track, and the little handheld battery powered, remote, which the one F unit is powered, the other F unit is non-powered, but I think it has lights and sound in the non-power, so you can, run them either way and get headlights and that kind of thing. But wow, how cool is that? And the train set, I think it retails for, it's under $400, and I think I saw it was on sale for somewhere around the $350 mark. But the minute I saw it, I was wanting to write my letter to Santa Claus and tell him how I've eaten my vegetables and I've been doing my homework and taking out the trash, and I really need this Santa Fe Tulsa tank train set for Christmas. That's very cool. But if you're looking for that kind of stuff, if you're in the area, Menards is like Wisconsin based, and they have a lot of stores throughout the area. I have them nearby me in Kansas City and St. Joe. If you don't have a Menards near you, menards.com, and you can basically just in their search engine on their website, put in train stuff. And they do have some HO as well. They have die-cast vehicles, buildings, all sorts of stuff. But they've had a couple of other little train sets, but this is a really cool big deal with their own F unit in it. But that's new for this holiday season.
Menards is kind of a neat thing. And again, that is definitely like a Midwest kind of thing where we don't have any Menards in our area that I believe. But it's kind of neat. I mean, there's a place that you could literally go and buy everything you need for, you can buy the plywood, you can buy you can buy pretty much everything that you need, lumber, the train sets, the everything right at Menards. And it's just a pretty neat, very vast store. And I drove through by a few when we was out in the St. Louis area for the St. Louis RPM. It's like, that's a Menards, but never got to go into it. Maybe next trip.
Oh man. Yeah. I can literally go into Menards and get everything I need from frozen pizza and soda and coffee and that kind of as box of cereal.
Really?
And then they've got like stuff. That's the best place to get squeaky toys for Bandit. I always find like the best ducks and chickens and whatever's with squeakers in them. So he always knows when I've gone to Menards, because when I get back home, he hears the squeak as I come in and start unpacking things and goes crazy. But yeah, Menards has everything.
Wow. It's like Home Depot meets Walmart Supercenter meets a hobby shop, I guess, too. And whatever else and everything in between. Pretty amazing.
Fun stuff. Indiana University Press has got the third and final volume in its Pennsylvania Railroad series. These are three hardcover books, and this third one is arriving in November on the decline years. It's basically kind of the diesel era through 1968 and the arrival of Penn Central. Eager to see it, eager to read this third volume. Pensy was the standard of the world, as they proudly proclaimed. And this is a really neat set of books that has been documenting the railroad. And again, it wraps up with this third final volume. And that's Indiana University Press that published that. But you can find those books at like Ron's Books and, places like both hobby and book dealers will carry that as well. But you can find out more too by, Googling Indiana University Press. But that should be a neat book on the Pensy that's coming out. Again, another holiday gift idea. If you've got a fan of the Pensy out there, that's an interesting thing to consider.
Absolutely.
Class 1 Model Works has got a new run of their Thrall 4 and 8 door high cubes. I got some early samples of those that I got to look at. They will be showing those off at Train Fest. Lots of neat paint schemes in this group. It's Thrall's, again, 86-foot high cube, so that's too big for the 50-foot high cube crowd, which would be you.
That'd be me, but that's okay. It's still a cool-looking car. Yeah.
Now, I myself, I like the 86-footers like this, and I like the little baby high cube, the 40-foot. So, see, you can have all the 50s you want. I'll take the little...
Stuck in the middle.
Well, I'll take the baby high cubes and then those big ones. But these big ones are great. There's a beautiful red Burlington route, and I think there's like no less than 3 versions each on Chicago Northwestern, Union Pacific, where there's like maybe 2 4 doors because they were a little more common, and then the 1 8 door and different paint schemes. Like on the Northwestern, you can get the 2 different door configurations. There's a yellow car. That's the one that I had a sample of to look at. There's also like a boxcar red with the Northwestern Herald. So all kinds of paint schemes in there as well. Those you can get by going to Class 1 Model Works and reserve those now. There's also select dealers like Spring Creek Model Trains carries Class 1 as well. So if you miss them or they sell out, that's another place to look for those too. But a new run of those coming out. I think, again, they're showing them at Train Fest, and I think they're supposed to land by the end of the year.
They have my favorite boxcar slogan, which is Southern serves the South.
Green light to innovation.
That's right. Love it. Love it.
Neat stuff. And I think one of the big announcements here in the last month is yet another awesome caboose. Rio Grande fans, we're going to have to start mowing yards, get a paper route, doing, whatever we can do, painting houses, something. Because not only has Athearn announced the Genesis, the Wide Vision International cabooses, but Rapido Trains is going to be doing the 1400 series steel cabooses. Those were built by Burnham shops beginning in 1940, so they go far enough back. They can run with late era steam, early diesel, and then with modernization and such, they make it into the era of the SP stuff. So, and Rapido, of course, is knocking out all that kind of thing. If you look at the announcement for the first run, they've got some of the early ones all the way up through the later ones where some of the windows and other things were redone. They started in black with the white flying Rio Grande. Then there's the 4-stripe scheme in the Aspen Gold and Silver, then single stripe, and then the solid action road orange. I think almost all those are represented other than the 4-stripe scheme was missed in this first production. I've got coming in December's Model Railroad News, a 4-page section on these Rio Grande cabooses where I show some of the different paint schemes and talk about the different runs. Burnham basically built like 10 a year from 1940 into the late 50s. And Joe Strapak's Rio Grande Diesel's Pictorial History Volume 3, that softcover book from Shade Tree Books, is a great resource for that. But this is an exciting project. This is one that I was in on when they first were doing research on it, that they came to me and asked for pictures on these cabooses and information. And so I've known the project was coming for quite some time, but was really excited to see it go public and coming out. And they've got some early samples on the website of the different bodies and everything. This will really be a nice thing. As I say, for Rio Grande modelers, we were talking about no better time to be in the hobby. But boy, if you're a Rio Grande person, that nails both of their signature cabooses basically for HO scale. So really awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Then finally, this is not a big thing investment wise, but these are so cool. Walthers has HO scale in their Scene Master line, the blue flag sets. And I know you've seen these, men working or whatever, the set even has the little arm that you can, I think, attach to like the railhead. And then on the end, it's like a flagpole, and it's got the little blue placard with the white, men working, whatever safety things. But talk about something to really dress up like your locomotive scene on your railroad, is to have these sets of blue flags. I think I don't have the price in front of me, but I think it's something like less than $20 or around $20 for the set. Yeah. And it's got a number of different little details in there as well, but really cool, really neat thing. And again, one of those, once you see it, you go, oh yeah, I could use that, or, oh, that would be very cool to have. So that's new from Walthers and HO Scale, their Scene Master brand. The blue flags set with, again, it's got poles, and I can't remember if it's not the derail, or it's got a couple of the little pieces, for like around the track too, but that's a very neat piece.
Yeah, locomotive mounted too. They got the flags for the locomotive. So if you got a locomotive that's being worked on, you can put a blue flag on that, and it's got clips right on the rail. Plus they got that one that kind of hinges on the center rail. Great for operations too. If you want to, with operations, you want to slow down operations a little bit and give a little bit of realism, add these to it, and then you can tack them on, and that's just one more thing that they can do, and it really brings the realism forward. So a really cool kit from Walthers.
And that's it. A little bit of everything there, but yeah,
awesome stuff. Find all the links for the items that we just talked about on our website. That's aroundthelayout.com/127. So where can we find more of Tony Cook?
More of Tony? I just listened to going to the dog park and back with Bandit this week, because that's the most important thing I do in the week, is take him to the dog park down at Smithville Lake, and then we go to Dairy Queen afterwards. I listened to your interview with Ryan Crawford.
Yeah.
On reviewing models. And I thought it was so good. Ryan is such a great guy. And that is exactly how he is, talking on the phone with him. And your interview was it was excellent. It was really good. But you say, where else can you find me? Ryan was talking about diesel era. And that's a subject that's near and dear to both of us. Well, as you know, I'm managing editor now of the publication, which still is kind of a head scratcher of like, really? Wow. I love that magazine. It's like, oh, wow. But Ryan and I both, that's when we're working on projects and other things, I'll get hey, did diesel era ever cover this or that? And let me look on yeah, I see it here on the list. I'll see what that article has in it. But diesel era, you can certainly find me there. I'm doing the Pan Am GP40-2 wide nose units. It's the fourth quarter edition of that. As I mentioned, December's Model Railroad News has that Rio Grande prototype profile on those steel cabooses in the 1400 series. And the cover is A Legend Returns, the Athearn Roundhouse F7 model coming back. And my first HO Collector Annual has been out for a couple of months, and it's available from White River. The White River calendar is out now, too, the World of Railroading 2025. That I heard that mentioned in a meeting in the last week or so, that those have come in. So
I just broke in my 2024 one. Now I got to get rid of it for another one. Oh,
I mean, calendars, it's like every year you have to get a new one. I don't know what that, but not always. If you keep them long enough, I think they do come back.
Just but cross off the year and write the new one in.
Then you got to figure out what year was that. So that may be too much work. Yeah. But anyhow, you can find all those things at shop.whiteriverproductions.com. And then Model Train Resource, I just put up that I mentioned in our talk with Chris, Mike, and Jeff Zucker that we just had our monthly visit. We did our September show on October 1st. That's how busy we've been with train stuff, that we both had, can we push this off a week? Let's put that off another week. We finally got to where the September show was done in October. So we did say we will do an official October show, but that is on my YouTube channel. It's also on the Spring Creek Model Trains. Should be up on their YouTube channel as well, that I upload that and give that to Mike to put up there as well. And it's on the Spring Creek Facebook page. Right. As well. And we show pictures of a recent trip they did, Saginaw, Texas, with some great grain elevators and shots that I think it was Deb Zucker taking pictures of Dave. They're looking at some of that stuff in the Dallas area. So we always share some rail fan pictures, and Jeff had some pictures too. I'm trying to think what they were, but he had some neat pictures as well. And then, of course, we look at new model train stuff. So that show is each month. And then I do try to get around to I've been busy in the last month with running back and forth to Texas, and I haven't gotten some videos up, but I've got some videos I'll get out on the channel as well. And that's YouTube Model Train Resource.
Yeah, we'll share all those links again, aroundthelayout.com/127. So, Tony, thanks again for coming by and sharing the news.
Absolutely, Ray. Always appreciate having the time to talk train stuff and getting to talk to somebody in the industry.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Around the Layout. Learn more about today's episode, check out past shows, and much more on our website, aroundthelayout.com. Show your support by becoming an operating crew member at aroundthelayout.com/crew. Follow us on social media, aroundthelayout.com/social. And send us your feedback, aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us around the layout.